Good morning and welcome to Wise Women Weekdays. My name is Lucinda Wild and I'm joined with
Rebecca. Good morning.
Are you a wise woman? I haven't met you before.
Well, I don't necessarily call myself a wise woman, but I have a lot of life experience and a lot of learning, so I think there is some wisdom there.
Okay.
But would I call myself a wise woman? I think that's open to opinion.
Are you wise when it comes to men?
Well, I have a lovely son, absolutely beautiful son, who is incredibly balanced and intelligent and successful and kind and caring and loving. And I feel I had a part to play in that, along with a very good school. When it comes to men, me personally, I'm still trying to figure them out. I think it's a lifelong thing to figure the opposite sex out. But I have some very lovely male friends, and I like men. We need the balance of men in our lives.
We do need the balance of men in our lives. I get an incredible amount out of male company.
I do too.
Yeah.
I actually prefer male company to female company.
Yes.
I find it a lot more grounding and a lot more forthright. I think women can sometimes sort of let things fester, whereas men tend not to do that. They get it out straight away, and I like that. I like
more
that
direct.
That authenticity as well. Yeah.
Because I think men, they're allowed to be direct and forthright, whereas when a woman does it, I know I do it, I get labelled a Karen, domineering,
mentally unstable.
Mentally unstable, yes. The mentally unstable one is an ongoing thing.
Yes, I think it's very easy, but I think men and women's roles since the Industrial Revolution really have really changed, especially in the last sort of 40 years. Oh my God,
that's my stomach.
Oh dear.
That's so loud.
That's very loud. You must eat breakfast.
Yes.
Lucy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we now, men and women are sort of being very divided. People have lost track of what a man and a woman's role is.
Yes.
And I'm quite old-fashioned. I like the idea that sort of men go out to work and they have certain roles. It's like putting the bins out, that's man's work. Cutting the grass is man's work. And the woman is the nurturer. She brings up the children and she nurtures her partner and creates a home. And I personally, I know it's probably quite unpopular view at the moment, but I personally like that identification of roles.
Yes.
Male and female roles. Not in everything, I work and I've brought up my son on my own since he was 1, and so I know I've had to fulfil every single role. But I think men and women are quite confused now because women are expected to work full time, bring up the children, run the home still, do all the shopping, the ironing, the homework, the this, the that, the everything else. But men are also expected to do everything as well, and so we're overloaded. We're absolutely overloaded with responsibilities, and because of the economic climate we're in as well, very few people have the choice of the woman staying at home or the man staying at home to bring up the kids, so we've been thrust into this situation where both sexes are trying to do everything, and I don't think it's working very well. People are under stress, enormous amounts of stress, relationship breakdowns, divorce, and a tremendous amount of loneliness comes of that. And I'm especially conscious of that going up to Christmas, and I have been, I think, more so over the last 3.5 years since the sort of COVID stuff kicked off, of how many lonely people there are and how that has actually intensified because of all the lockdowns, and things have never really people haven't really got back to the way that they were before. People tend to socialise less, invite you into their homes less.
Yes.
People tend to meet out more and have coffees outside the home, and something's shifted, and I think it's creating a much higher level of loneliness and separation between men and women and families generally.
I agree with so many points that you made there. First point I'd want to pick up on is the traditional roles of men and women. I love that. I love having a door opened for me.
Yes.
I love men picking up a check. Oh, that's quite an Americanism. Picking up a restaurant bill, buying me a nice glass of wine, buying me flowers, treating me like a princess, because in return I am able to treat them like a king. You know, I like to fulfill my feminine roles of cooking and cleaning and supporting my man. Not that I have one, because sadly he passed away. And he thoroughly appreciated it. He fitted into his role. He took the bin out. If we had real grass, he would have cut it. He organised the tech in the house. He hung pictures, mirrors, painted. He did all of those things. And he was a good provider. I mean, I provided too, because, you know, I'm not a freeloader. But in a short period of being in partnership, because it was a platonic relationship, we enabled each other to thrive, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think we've lost the key to what makes a male and female relationship work really well.
Yes.
And I think men need to be honoured.
Yes.
For their roles, and in return women need nurturing to fulfil our feminine side. And we all have feminine and masculine, but by honouring the male, you honour the sort of the hunter, the guy that stands up for you. You know, if somebody attacks you in the street and your partner's there, your male partner, you know, they're not going to run off, are they? They're going to defend you. And there's something lovely and nurturing and protective about that, which is really important to me.
Yeah, I was in that situation reasonably recently. I was attacked in the park after dark by a man, and I then found myself in a situation where I was telling someone I thought was a friend, who was also a man, that I was in trouble. And the man was so cowardly and so disempowered, I had to defend myself against this attacker. And I find this emasculation of men, often caused by women, it's not okay.
Well, I think we've got a lot of things going on in the world at the moment that are trying to take male power away from them.
Yes.
I mean, stories about, you know, the military being supplied with stilettos. I mean, ridiculous nonsense stuff that's going on in the world at the moment.
The military's being supplied with stilettos. Did I hear that right?
For men to wear stilettos if they choose. I mean, you know, there's a lot of nonsense going on in the world at the moment regarding gender and.
Whoa.
I mean, it's the demasculation of males is quite a big thing that's going on in the world at the moment, and this is being sort of quite manipulated to take men's ability to defend their country and defend their family and defend what is their world, because if you have strong men who will stand up to authority, then that authority has a problem. So let's demasculate the man.
By putting them in stilettos.
Take away their ability to feel their natural urge to defend. So then you've got, I mean, not all men, but I think particularly in young men, and it's very confusing because we're in a world now where and thankfully men are being encouraged to explore their feminine side,
Yes.
because we're all a balance of male and female.
Yes.
I know I feel my balance of male and female, and I've had to probably develop more male qualities because of being a single parent, so you have to be mum and dad and everything else as well. So men don't really know where they stand anymore, because they're told in the old days men shouldn't cry. Well, it's okay for men to cry.
Yes,
It's
it is
good
okay for men to cry.
To get the emotions out and to be honest and to be sensitive. There's, it's valued, and women have had to sort of explore more their masculine side and stand up for themselves more and assert their rights and all these things. But something's gone a little bit too far out of kilter.
Yes, it
And
has.
men are now afraid to stand up and defend somebody, or show their masculine side, because that's been labelled as toxic.
Yes,
Toxic
masculinity.
which is a very divisive way
Yes.
of taking the power away from men, and I think it's horrendous. The states that especially young white British men,
Yes.
it is specifically targeted at young white British men to disempower them, and I think what's going on at the moment is very destructive. And I'm not saying that because I think non-white males have any better deal, but it is being specifically targeted at white young men to
Yes.
disempower them. And it really concerns me, because I have a son. He's 29. He's a lovely young man, but I can see the struggles within him as to all the things that are going on in the world at the moment.
I mean, I think what you're talking about here has given rise to the involuntary celibate men and their aggression towards women.
Yeah.
They have been backed into a corner by women who shout misogynist
Yes.
at the smallest thing, but don't fully understand what the word misogynist means. I watched a YouTube video. There was an influencer being called a misogynist by two young women in the street, and when he asked them what they meant by misogynism, they didn't know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
I'm defending men.
Yes.
And
well, yeah.
I find it actually quite an alien position to be in, because until recent years I was quite anti-man. I was a bit of an angry feminist, but through being loved properly by a good man, I've relinquished those hard beliefs that are very limiting.
Well, I think I've got every reason under the sun to not like men.
Yes.
But that's not how it is. I like men very much. They have fabulous qualities, and so much in this world now is blamed on men. Men cause the violence, men do this, men do that. Whereas if you dig deeply, it's more often than not there's a woman there somewhere
Yes.
who's got a needle in, and it might be the mother, it might be a boss, it might be a political leader or whatever, and I'm not turning it toxic against mothers at all, but having looked a lot at the psychology of male behaviour, mothers can do a lot of damage to their sons, and we cannot simply just go all men are toxic and it's all men's fault, because it really isn't.
It isn't.
Yeah.
We are all culpable and we all need to be accountable.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was going to say there. My mind just blanked.
It'll
I
come
think
back to
it
you.
might be one of those little menopausal moments.
Well, I think it's there's a lot of people now choosing to stay single.
Yes, there are women 50 plus that decide not to get into another relationship when their marriage ends.
Yes, or a relationship ends. I know a lot of single women now who just don't want to go back and live with a man again, or it's not they don't want to live with a man, but they want to live with themselves,
Yes.
and just be happy living with themselves. And it's like, okay, I get that. I live on my own. I'm most of the time okay with that.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but I think, and that is, yeah, I think it's a sort of fairly recent phenomena that women are just stepping into their power and going, no, I think I'll be okay on my own, and really enjoying it. But I do think as well, this also leads to, you know, if we're going to have a lot of people who are living on their own, I know there's a lot of loneliness in the world at the moment, like huge amounts of loneliness, and families are being, and this has been going on since the Industrial Revolution, you know, where families, the young people went off to the cities to work. Well, it's not really any different now. You know, families are being very spread apart, because we've got better transport. You know, most of the valued jobs these days are in cities and towns.
Yes.
You know, if you live in the country, like you're a farmer or a small cottage industry, you know, you sort of look down on a bit, which is ridiculous. It should be the other way around.
Yes.
So families have been very divided, and now we're having this further division by trying to divide men and women and set them against each other. And, you know, children are being set against parents, you know, taught at school to, you know, not trust and dislike your parents. We don't take care of our grandparents anymore the way that we used to.
No, we put them in homes.
Shove them in a home, or, you know, they're left in the country while we go off and work, have jobs in towns and cities. So I think there's going to be a lot of loneliness. There already is a lot of loneliness. And I spoke to our local vicar a couple of years ago during all the lockdown, because I suddenly had this sense that there was enormous amount of loneliness in the world, and I was feeling it as well. You know, I was in lockdown on my own, and sort of started going a little bit round the twist. And then I started knitting, made a lot of scarves. But yeah, I went to speak to the local vicar about the amount of loneliness there was going on, and he said, yeah,
Is this Pete the vicar?
Pete the vicar.
Yeah.
And I had a really good conversation with him about that, and he said, yeah, I'm very aware of how much loneliness there is just in our local area. I mean, I live in a village, just outside of a small town, and the number of people now who live on their own, and I'm very conscious of this going up to Christmas, that there will be a lot of people, because Christmas is still sold to us as like a family time.
Yes.
And, you know, we're almost judged that if we don't have that big family happy experience, then, you know, your worth goes down, your value as a human being goes down, which is absolute nonsense.
And your worth as a woman goes down if you haven't got the family round and you're cooking and pandering to everyone's needs.
And creating the Christmas tree and the perfect picture postcard interior in your home. I mean, frankly, I just got a bunch of fairy lights that were really, really tangled. I put them on the bookshelf and plugged them in. That's my Christmas decorations.
I do Christmas perfectly, I have to say. I fit into the perfect woman mould for Christmas. But the rest of the year, it's, you know, it doesn't work. No. But, you know, I'll have the immaculate tree. I'm not cooking this year. I'm taking some friends out. But in years gone by, I have had a table full of people, including my daughter and David. Everyone's been happy and laughing. And I have been exhausted at the end of it. Cooking, one year I cooked for, I think it was 10 family members.
Wow.
And any offers of help were actually a hindrance.
Yes.
Because pink jobs and blue jobs. Having a man in the kitchen, this is not derogatory to man, it's not always helpful because they don't like to follow instructions.
Well, yeah, I think someone's got to take the lead. Someone's got to kind of be in charge, as it can all go horribly wrong. But yeah, I will make more effort. I've got what I've done this year. I've invited everybody I know who's going to be on their own. And it's like open house, come over.
Yeah.
which is really, I'm quite looking forward to it. It's going to be a bit of an unknown for me because I've never done that before. But I don't like the thought of anybody being on their own unless they choose to. And some people choose to, they're fine with it. It's just another day to some people. But I think if we're just aware of anybody around us in our local community who might be on their own this Christmas, and just, you know, a smile or mince pie and a cup of tea sometime, anything like that. But I think as well that, you know, going back to this sort of families separated all over the place, and not, you know, it's not always possible to get back together at Christmas time if you're in different parts of a country or in different countries, or even if you're just sort of 20 miles down the road. But I do think that, you know, this notion of bringing in these 15-minute cities.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about the 15-minute cities, because it all looks very nice on the surface, doesn't it? You know, everything within walking distance of your home.
Yeah, it looks very
sounds convenient.
It?
You know, you can leave the car behind, less pollution. Yeah, but reality is, how do you carry a week's worth of shopping back from Tesco's, even if you do only live 10 minutes down the road?
Well, I think there's, you know, this notion of 15-minute cities, which people like the World Economic Forum are wanting to bring in. And they've already started in certain places across the world. I think China are building this massive city at the moment that will just be a 15-minute city. So the theory is that you will be able to do your work, your shopping, your kids' schooling, everything within 15 minutes of where you live. And you will only be allowed to travel outside that for a certain amount of times per year, or not at all, if they deem that they don't want you leaving that 15-minute city.
So how do you think that will affect family units moving forward? Because you've already talked about young people living in cities, older people living in smaller towns and countryside. That's going to create further breakdown of the family unit, do you think?
Oh, totally, yeah. I mean, my family are scattered all over the country, and it would mean that we would not be able to see each other. And, you know, that's quite shocking, that you can't actually go outside of 15 minutes of where you live. I mean, whoever thought that we would be in a situation where we're contained in a prison, essentially, albeit it might have parks and schools and shops, and you might think you're very happy, but you would essentially be in a prison. And personally, I would find that horrendous, because I love to travel. But an example of this, I recently went on holiday to Montenegro, and I always like to talk to the locals and find out, you know, how the country works, and well, there particularly why there's so many dogs roaming around the streets, like, with no owners. And there, a lot of the young people can't get work.
Okay.
So they leave the country, and for, you know, better chances in life. So you've got a country where there's very few people under 20, because they, or rather over 20, because they leave, they go. So you've got the grandparent generation, you've got the parent generation, but you've got no young people.
Okay.
It's quite bizarre. So if we get those situations with a 15-minute city, and you've got, you know, family, older generations outside living in the country, you know, so that's slowly being ground down to have no industry. And, you know, you can see even where we live, there's so many shops empty because they don't want little independent businesses running, that you're going to have even more separation, even more division, and even more loneliness. And I think that's that's a pretty bleak picture,
Well,
personally.
lonely people are often unhappy people.
Yeah.
Unhappy people have shorter life expectancies.
Yeah. And usually end up resorting to antidepressants or
Alcohol, drugs.
all that bad behaviour. You know,
Yes.
if you pen an animal up, they go slowly insane and become violent.
Yes.
So, you know, it's an unknown how people would respond or react over time to living in that way. I mean, I can't personally even begin to imagine. I just wouldn't do it. I'm not going to do it. It's simple.
So do you believe there may be any assets to a 15-minute city?
Do I believe there's any assets to it? Well, I'm sure there is, because you'd have less commuting.
Yes.
But I think there are also alternatives to that. We have to improve the public transport that we've got.
Yes.
I mean, there are technologies out there, so many technologies that we're not privy to, that would reduce our need for fossil fuels and damaging pollutants in you know in the air and what have you. But I think that we really need to focus on what the family is going forward, and not let them divide us.
So what,
not
in
be divided.
your mind, what is the family unit? Because I know I could ask that question to a lot of people and they'll come up with something different. It could be two men bringing up a child, or two non-binary people bringing up a child, or a man and a woman bringing up children together.
I think a family is the people that you love,
Right.
and the people that will be there for you
Okay.
when things aren't going well. You know, it could be the people that bore you, your grandparents, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your aunties, whoever. A very wise woman said to me a few years ago, she said, when you're grown up, you pick your own mother, the one that you would have liked to have been your mother, the one that you would have liked to have been your father, or your sisters, or your brothers. And I thought that was incredibly wise. So I think it's being with the people that you feel strong with.
Yes.
That to me is family. It's not necessarily just the people that you share blood with.
Yeah, I mean, for me, currently, I have my family, but I also have the wise women. I also have the broader social network of my coven, and I feel very bonded and close to the other wise women and the witches within my coven. And I've also picked a mother. I mean, I love my mum. I wouldn't change her for the world. But there is a lady that, if I could have chosen my mother, I would have chosen her.
Yeah. And I've said this to my son as well, because he went to a boarding school, and I said to him, you know, it's okay if you want to pick someone that would be the mother that you would ideally choose. It's okay. And I could see the relief on his face, actually, and it's just like, yeah, okay.
I mean, I think my daughter, she lives in Amsterdam, she's established a relationship with a woman of my age, and she said if I could have chosen this lady to be my mum, I would have done. And I can't actually see that much difference between me and this woman.
But thankful for those people that are in their lives.
I'm so grateful. This lady has got my daughter's back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that I know that she's safe if she gets into trouble, because I can't get to her quickly and easily with her being in Amsterdam.
But I think also we're going through really unusual times, and we will be for the next
2 years.
Few years. I think it's going to be.
Jonathan Daniels was talking about the next 2 years. So was the astrologer. What was his name? I forget.
I can't remember either. I've got a really bad memory for names. Like, shocking. I remember people's dogs' names, but not their names.
Oh my God, me too.
It's really bad, isn't it?
I have people in my phone with Jessie, Black Pug.
Yeah. But I do think, and one thing I've found, because you know we've been going through very odd times for the last nearly 4 years now, And some say it's a sort of a spiritual time where you've got the dark night of the soul, and we're being flooded with this incredible photonic light, so we're turning into more crystalline structures rather than three-dimensional matter structures. And I've personally found that I've been getting sort of waking up in the middle of the night with this something that's very important that I have to do next, to sort of sort out and make life more loving.
Yes.
And one of those things was to get back in touch with my family, and you know, as hard as that was, because we were a bit sort of not speaking to each other for quite some time, and I thought, yeah, that's actually really important to me, that no matter how hard it is, I need to try and connect with them again. And I think, you know, I don't know anybody at the moment who's having an easy time, not one person. And I think that we need... Oh, you are? Oh, well done.
I'm having a lovely time.
Oh, great, good. But I think there's a lot of people who are really, you know, a lot of things are coming up, and they're having to confront them and put them to bed or deal with them or whatever. And I think if you get the calling to reconnect with people that you've lost touch with, your family, and that will be good for you, then just be brave and do it.
That's actually the reasons why I'm having a lovely time. While I've lost my dear David, I've reconnected with family and a broader social network, and it just fills me with love.
Yeah. I have to say, since the pandemic, I've made so many new friends, and I'm so grateful. I'm really happy about that, because they're not necessarily the people that I would have been friends with before, or gone out of my way to, you know, understand how they think. So it's been actually a really fantastic time of awakening and meeting different people who think in a different way.
Yes.
And I'm really enjoying that. It's
and
great.
I'm noticing as my spirituality grows, then people of the past are falling away, and new people are coming in, and I really like that.
Yeah. It's quite a cleansing time, isn't it? Yeah. Get rid of the stuff that weighs you down, that you no longer serves you, and bring in what is positive for you. And if that is reconnecting with people, then make the effort to do it. It's worth it. But I'm looking forward to Christmas, actually.
Yeah, I'm
going to be doing loads of cooking, and I love it.
I love cooking at Christmas. I'm going to start making my own mincemeat this week.
Wow.
Yeah, because I don't like raisins. They're like, ugh.
Okay.
Those squishy little rabbit peas, yuck. So I make my own mincemeat with cranberries instead of raisins, and dried figs and apricots.
Yeah.
Soak everything in tons of booze. Not that I drink, but it adds a nice flavour to the fruits.
Okay. Do you remember Tunis cake? I keep asking people this.
Tunis.
Tunis cake.
No.
When I was little, we always had traditional fruit and ice cake, a chocolate log, and a Tunis cake, which is like a Madeira sponge, and in the middle is a thin layer of marzipan and apricot jam. On the outside is a very thin layer of marzipan, and then over that is a very thin layer of dark chocolate, and then it's got all the little marzipan fruits on the top. And until about 5 years ago, you could still buy one in like Waitrose, and then they've disappeared. They've just gone. They don't exist anymore. So I'm making a Tunis cake because I love them.
Well, I think maybe we should go live on Wise Women and make a Tunis cake together.
Let's
I
do
think
it.
the viewers would like to see us make a cake.
Absolutely, because I love making the little marzipan fruits, and like, half of them make it to other people and half of them go in my mouth. But just spending time just like painting all these little fruits is just really relaxing as well.
Do you think the different types of marzipan fruit taste different? Because I swear that they do. I think that it must just be
It's your imagination.
my imagination.
Well, it's your visual. If you're eating a little miniature orange, it's going to go, it should taste like an orange.
I have synesthesia as well. So I think if something's painted orange, even if it doesn't taste of orange, I will taste orange. Because I can taste and smell people's names.
But the paint, the sort of proper food paint that you use, doesn't actually taste of anything. I mean, you might be able to get flavoured ones, I don't know, but I think you're imagining it. It's
Yes.
your
It's the
synesthesia.
Yeah, I would have been burned at the stake for this superpower. Actually, I probably will be in this lifetime when they catch up with me.
So, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to that or bring up.
Yeah,
On the list.
before we go, let's have a quick chat about men that we love and why we love them.
Okay.
On some levels, this is a really controversial one, which is likely to get a few women's backs up. I quite love Andrew Tate. I like his directness, and some of the things that he says are absolutely on the money. But the flip side of Andrew Tate, where he's really misogynistic, I don't like that, because I think he's buying into the divide between men and women. Come talk to me about it, Andrew Tate. I'm happy to hold a conversation with you.
Okay, I don't know who Andrew Tate is. I have no idea who that is. Who is he?
He's a MMA fighter. I think he's an MMA
okay.
fighter that's suddenly become a social commentator, and
Okay.
I really enjoyed him in conversation with Joe Rogan.
Okay. Well, men. Well, there are just a long list. It started when I was very young with Telly Savalas, Kojak. I just thought he was the best thing ever. He was so big and protective and such a lollipop. But now, at the moment, there's so many men that I admire and respect, who are really standing up for what's right in the world. Jordan Peterson's a man I find very interesting.
I like him a lot.
He's a very grounded, intelligent man, and there are many of them around.
Yes.
I think locally somebody that I really respect is a gentleman called Amadis, and he teaches meditation and Qigong at the Unity Centre in Lewis.
Okay.
An extraordinary soul, and have a lot of time and respect for him and his teachings. I am totally in awe of my son, and I don't say that lightly. He is incredibly strong, and I tell him often that I am in awe of your strength, and I love you. And he tells me he loves me, and that is just everything in the world to me. Yeah.
I was, when my father was alive, in awe of him, because he rose from a Glaswegian tenement block to be a very successful man working for a large company in London. I'm not going to say the name. But on the flip side of that, no human being is perfect. He was also a violent alcoholic, and that did knock him off his pedestal. But then when I think about the good he did, I'm in awe, but then conversely, thoroughly disappointed. One person can bring up a lot of emotions. My granddads, both of them, were incredible men who looked after their women, their children. They went to work. My granddad, my Glaswegian grandfather, I'm in awe of him, big time. He was out on picket lines. He did a manual labour job. He was a traditional working class white man. And I don't mean that in a racist way. It's just that I know that these men are undervalued in society now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the men in my family.
My other granddad, he was a headmaster. He was very kind and compassionate and strong. I haven't got anything negative to say about him at all. Again, he's another working class man who rose from nothing. He went to Christ Hospital. He won a scholarship.
My son went to Christ Hospital.
Did he?
Yeah.
It's an amazing
place. And I
place.
sent him there because I didn't have any male role models.
Yes.
And I knew how important that is for a young man growing up, is to have good male role models. So I decided to send him to Christ Hospital School, which was hard. It's hard to get in there. And I remember saying it to him, I don't care how you do academically. That's not why this will be good for you. It's all the other qualities that will give you.
Yes.
being part of something bigger than yourself, having very good male role models around, and it gave him all that strength and independence as well. But I think good male role models,
Yes.
so important, as are good female role models. And I think sometimes adults now are afraid to interact with young people or children because there's so much fear around why are you interacting with a child. So it does put, and you even see it walking on the street, somebody gets attacked, nobody goes to help now.
No.
Or very few people, because they're afraid of becoming involved, of what the repercussions of that might be. It's a tough one in society at the moment. People are afraid to stand up for what is right or be good role models, or are confused about what that even is anymore, because there's so much stuff that's utter nonsense going on.
It's nonsense. I mean, we've already touched on that nonsense label of toxic masculinity, and actually what these women or people are labelling are just men fulfilling their masculine roles within society. So have we got toxic femininity? Do we?
We definitely have.
We
it's
do
just
have
not
it.
a thing that
It's not
people
a
have
label.
put a label on yet, so we can't wave it that little flag around at the moment.
No, we get Karens instead. I'm a Karen.
What's a Karen?
A Karen is what's promoted on YouTube is these angry middle-aged women. And I get why middle-aged women are angry. We're going through a lot. We're having changes in our bodies. We're living in a hostile society where, and for generations, women of a certain age have been burnt at stakes, demonised, labelled crones, hags,
sectioned.
Haven't been sectioned yet, probably only a matter of time. Oh, hang on, I hear the men in the white coats coming up the driveway.
That's for me, darling. Wait your turn. As you could do with 2 weeks holiday, lying in a bed being fed. That'd be nice.
Oh, could you imagine just laying there on a morphine drip for 2 weeks, being fed, having everything done for you, and not promoting drug use?
Oh dear.
Let's name a couple more men that we really like.
Okay, well, you go first.
I quite like Lawrence Fox. He has a twatty side to him. There was no getting around it. A bit like Andrew Tate. But what I like about him is he is true to his convictions and he stands by them. He did not stand down. He did not apologise when he wasn't sorry. And I respect that.
Well, I think there are a huge amount of men who are standing up at the moment and trying to get the right information out to public. What's that Scottish guy that used to do the... he's on GB News now.
Swoon! Neil Oliver.
Yeah, him. He's doing a really good job.
Love
the
him.
guys who present the UK column. I don't know if you ever listened to that.
I haven't watched that one.
Okay, UK column is a news channel that's was going way before COVID. It's quite sort of following world events, but giving true accounts of it. And they're based down in Plymouth, which was a naval port. And I think they're ex-military. So
But we have to be careful with the word truth, because what is truth? As I've said before, it's an infutable fact. And how do we reach them? Through science, and not the science.
But they're two sort of older boys, and they really work hard at interviewing interesting people and letting the world know what's going on, and letting particularly this country. So I have a lot of time for them as well. And there's just so many, even Richard Vobes at the moment, who's, bless his heart, he's hammering it out on YouTube, and it must get to him as well, some of the things that he's learned. But he's there day after day after day, hammering stuff out. And I kind of sort of try and stay local in my admiration of people.
I really admire my next door neighbour, Pete, for the way that he's looking after his wife that's recently had a stroke. He's really stepping up. And there's another one of my neighbours, he's looking after his terminally ill wife. If that dog's going to vomit, I'll be really upset. He...
Oh dear.
Oh, right. I think we need to wrap this up here.
Before we get a
Before we
tsunami
get
of
a vomit from the dog. So if you like what we're
Oh,
doing
God.
here, like and subscribe.
Have you got something it can be sick on?
Oh God,
Bye.
bye.